Beautiful, beautiful. We're back. COVID can't stop us, baby. Play that beautiful music, huh? What a lovely tune. We got to get our own. We got to get our own trademark version of that, huh? It's
We got a.
we're in the early 100 eps. We should have our own personalized intro music. I think
I refuse to be part of the Ronaldinho MCM MCM. Yeah, is it no MLM? Sorry,
MLM.
not Mighty
Jeez.
Carmod. Yeah, I refuse to be part of the Ronaldinho mid-level marketing scheme. There is not a bag that man does not chase,
He's a South American footballer, bruv.
mate. A one,
Endorsement deals. That's what we
a,
do.
a wildly popular one.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, like you look, how many things did Maradona slap his name on? You know,
Look,
how many things has Messi slapped his name on? You know what I like about Messi though is
mm,
that he's clearly an introvert, but I do like that he doesn't shy away from doing the modeling stuff, even though
yeah,
he's got awful at it. He's not an ugly fella. He's scrubbed up nicely over the years.
he's got some
He,
nice. Yeah, he's got
he
some nice fitting suits. My thing is, I think it's like for him. You reckon he just takes it as a practical joke because everyone knows he's not a social butterfly. So he's just
yeah.
like, I wonder how people are gonna react to this. Like, watch me do this Pepsi ad with Paul Pogba,
I
and then everyone
I
hears me talk.
I really just reckon he's highly suggestible. That's what I reckon it is. I watched this interview with him along. It wasn't even really an interview. He played a card game
Oh,
with
yeah.
a Uruguayan TV show host and like his friend and Luis Suarez, and it was like
Mm.
25, 30 minutes. It was like a long form sort of like podcast type conversation. There was some little jump cuts here and there, but it was mostly pretty.
Unedited, raw.
Yeah, it was pretty raw and like the assumption you make of Messi just being this kind of like everything outside of the pitch, he doesn't really take a whole lot of interest in. He's not like, I want it this way, damn it. Like he doesn't really have that sort of intent. So I reckon if his people, the people that he leaves his life responsible to, come up to him and be like, hey, you know what? If you don't do the modeling part, you just have the endorsement side. They throw your name on it. You get X amount. If you want, triple or double that figure, then you got to put your face in there. And he's just
Mm.
like pragmatic. You know what? Fair enough. I'll go with that. And that's really it. I don't think he's sitting there like kind of like Ronaldo, where he's like trying to. It's a brand thing for him. It's
Mm.
all this sort of. For Messi, I reckon it's just like, my agent told me to, and I'm free today. So
Mm. He gets up and says,
I'm
"Let's
going.
get this bread."
Yeah, I feel like he's just incredibly suggestible. He
Hey,
just
Messi, you
seems
want
that.
to do this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he just seems like kind of guy. Like I don't play today. And I'm not training. Sure, you
How
know.
much do I get out of this?
I, I,
What's
I,
Messi, what's in it for me?
I reckon he doesn't even get the figure. He just gets told whether it's worth it or not. Like I reckon they
Yeah,
just come to him and his dad just sits him down. He's like, "I think it's worth it to do this. Let's do it." And he's just like, "All right,
cool.
let's commit tax evasion, for example."
Oh,
Allegedly, well, not even allegedly, huh? Like that actually went through the court system.
mate. Hey, look, the glove didn't fit on. Come on now. You can't. It doesn't happen if the court says it didn't happen, Owen. Come on now.
Let's circle back to the more prestigious side of football, huh?
The glamour,
The glamour, the A League, right?
the ALEAGUE,
Let's start on the coast, huh? Wait,
the
was this on the
coast.
coast? Or was Central Coast at home? I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
Wanderers
yeah.
was
Up
at
in
home.
up
Okay,
in the
yeah.
famous town of Gosford.
For some reason, I don't have memory of the big Master Foods inflatables.
Oh no, they were there. You
Yeah,
just didn't see them a lot because they were on Western Sydney side of the field. So it was where they were shooting. You
that's
didn't
fair.
see
Camera
them a
wasn't
lot.
down there a whole lot. Yeah,
Nah,
that makes
the
sense.
cameras weren't down there a lot. That's for sure.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Look, hot as balls that one, huh?
Yeah, a
Hot
couple of
as
drinks breaks
balls.
thrown in throughout the
Four
game.
drinks breaks. Four drinks breaks. Um,
Mm.
really, you don't think that if you throw four, what is it, 2 3 minute breaks in,
Yeah, 2 minutes probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 3 minute breaks, if you threw four of those sprinkled out a 90-minute contest, you don't think it would disrupt flow that much, but boy did it. It just made it so choppy. I felt the
Mm,
same sort of thing in the other games that had the drinks breaks, but I think because the Wanderers were so poor, it just stood out even more because
mm,
the stop start like herky jerky sort of flow of the game didn't suit a team that was already lost and drowning. You know what I mean? Like they had
no,
no flow to begin with and didn't get enough time to even try to get something going together. Just
nah.
awful. I feel like every time they went back to a drift, but they came back more confused because Robbo got a chance to like, oh, how about this and how about that, and you do this and you do that, and it just got worse and worse and worse every time they came out. Um, just terrible.
Miserable, just miserable. What a get this. Look, there's a lot of conjecture right now. Do we get this man out? Do we,
Yeah.
do we actually rebuild the club from within? You had Patrick Swanzik come out. He's like, oh, I'm not at this club because of the two people mentioned in this tweet. Blah blah blah. A lot of I guess gossip running wild at the moment
Yeah, for
around the
sure.
Wanderers. So look, I think hearing the things and seeing the things, I think even if we got rid of Robbo, I don't think it would fix the problem because I guess you could say that Robbo is head of the recruitment and he's the guy calling the players he wants in the team.
Mm.
But I can't quite put my finger on it. But I think it's the fact that you have 11 mercenaries on the field and they're just there to collect checks. Like obviously not everyone there, like the likes of Aquilina, um, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, this I feel like there's Ugarkovic putting in a
Yeah,
shift.
Ugarkovic. Yeah,
Yeah, I think even effort wise, Abini's put in like he's put in his work. KG's put in
yeah, but
work.
god damn,
You know what I
Ibini's
mean?
just it's hot one week and ice cold the next. Like there's
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah. Output wise, I agree. I
what's
100%
that
agree.
like? Like I just if he's a big figure up front, where's the output? Like I just don't.
Yeah,
I can't put my thing. Like we've been, I guess, going around the topic for the last couple of weeks with some of
yeah,
well, actually since the season, because a lot of the results have been poor. It's just that they've been lucky to get out of them with a bit of respect and some points, but you know we can suggest and deliberate over what can be done on the field, but it just doesn't feel like there is anything to do on the field. It just seems like I don't know, maybe you can, I guess, maybe if you've seen
Well,
anything.
the way I see it, right, is that if because all the conjecture about like the upper level management and ownership being what's truly rotten about the club,
Mm, mm,
um, that I feel like at this point is still sort of conjecture. I mean, there is hard evidence to say the otherwise, but the reality is, I mean, like if you look at this team on paper, you can't say that the coach has been denied of resources. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a group of 11 individuals or not. I mean, that's sort of up to the actual footballing minds to decide, not the
mm,
board of directors and so on. They just sort of put investment and back with their resource and support. And it seems like at least at that they've not completely failed, right? So I'm still sort of more leaning towards that it is just a pure footballing issue in that if we get the players playing, if we get the team chugging along, we get a coach in that actually wants to take them in a direction where it's more um, I suppose high octane in the sense that you've got players that have this sort of technical advantage over others. Let's try to employ it a bit more instead of going back to this rudimentary possession based, low risk, low reward type football. And just hoping that individual talents will sort of get you across the line, which is sort of the opposite of what Robbo was known for at Newcastle, right?
mm,
So let's get someone in. Whether he's like better or worse than Robbo in terms of peak for peak, I don't know. But at least it's someone that isn't regressing from their standard. The fact that Robbo is going backwards from where he was before is just like, well,
mm.
maybe it's just not the time for you at the club right now. You're not the guy to take a fall. We're not saying you're bad or you're good. It's just not the time.
Wrong
Let's
place, wrong time.
wrong place, wrong time. You were brought in for forward thinking ideas. What were you gonna say?
Rob place, Rob
No,
time.
Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness! I'm glad you interrupted my train of thought for that. That was a good stop a pun town, huh? No, but like you know what I mean. Like I feel like we're still in that area where it can be resolved with a change in the footballing outset, right? You bring in a coach that is actually going to employ the best side of his sort of philosophy rather than sort of just try to keep afloat and hope that he gets carried across by some marquee signing, so to speak, right? Someone with a bit more, someone like an Ufuk Talai or a fucking what's the guy from MacArthur?
Ante Milicic.
Ante Milicic, someone with a strong character in that sense. Maybe less so someone coming off a bit more of a just a hype inducing season.
I just think it's a weird thing because you look at the results last year, sorry, and you look at the team last year, and I guess it was a bit more interesting. Obviously, the defense wasn't there, but at least you were always in for a thrill. Good, bad, ugly. It was at least something to build off. So I don't know why he's gone back from. I know. I guess
I really reckon he's just trying to go for a more stable tactical outset to fit more of his quality players into the lineup in the hopes that just having as many of the marquee guys in there will just automatically induce a win. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not.
Style.
Yeah, it's sort of right, but like not even. It's not like we've got that sort of lineup to do that. I just think that instead of him trying to get the players to fit and buy into his original philosophy, he's sort of succumbed to their whim a little bit. I don't know if that's for the sake of convenience. You know what I mean? Like it's just easier to bed that in than it is to try to get all these guys on side for you. But then again, that comes down to maybe the board was on his ass. Maybe they're like, look, we've paid for these motherfuckers. You better get out there and use them, right? We don't care about your formation, your tactics, whatever it is. I don't think we could have seen that because it was so few games. Like literally from the first game, he changed what he was doing compared to last season. So I think, I don't think it was through any other sort of onset pressure. It's just he wanted to play that way. So I don't know. I reckon it's still worth a shake-up in that regard. He had last season. He got given some better players. He's not shown he's willing to take the next step with them. He's shown that he's more kind of thinking, I'm going to regress a little bit, be a bit more conservative. And that's just not really conducive for the sort of lineup, the sort of players, that the personnel that they've put together. I think it's more the sort of team that's looking for a high risk, high reward type mentality.
100%. I think that'd be more beneficial just to let them run. Let the final third dictate. Just kind of just score more than you concede, and then keep everyone happy. This backward passing, lateral passing isn't really helping anyone. None of the players seem to be comfortable with it. The results aren't there. I can just throw it at the wind, see what comes back, and get some I guess wins or put some balls on the board. You know what I mean? Like just throw it all out and see what happens. But I mean, back to the game itself. I mean, Central Coast were really just on top of it, and really, they could have won this game easily by more than 2 goals. I think the scoreline kind of flattered Wanderers at some stages. Great free kick at the end.
It was definitely deserved. They need that. Like I think that free kick at the end was justice because 1-0 would have been way too flattering. I think for the Wanderers because like you said, even 2-0 was flattering. Urania himself could have had 3 goals, and he didn't even
the first half alone.
Yeah, he didn't even have on the score sheet at the end. So like I feel like some of the problems that the Wanderers are facing were highlighted very early in this game. Nisbet just running amok on the whole midfield, right? No one could pick him up. When they did, he'd drag him out of position, and there'd be gaps in behind. And I think that's down to just there's not a good balance in what we've got in midfield at the moment. Everyone sort of overlaps in the roles that they play almost too much, not in a sort of synergistic way, but more in a who goes you, me sort of thing. That's just how it feels watching it. It's a bit clunky. It's not a very fluid midfield. I feel like Ugarkovic he does a lot of work, but I don't think it's necessary. I think he does it because of the shortcomings of others. I think he's probably got other areas of the pitch he could add more value in that he can't because he's having to sort of act as a bit of a cover for others. So there's this a lot. And then Urania, obviously, he just showed that a striker with good movement finds a lot of space in that gap between our back line and the defensive midfielders. One of the defensive midfielders, the midfield line, just because of the fact that they're so like unbalanced, out of position a lot of the time. that forces Reese and Katrumbas to step up a lot, which has
Mm.
led to them having a lot of great highlight plays towards the start of the season, specifically
Mhm.
Reese. I mean, how many
Mhm.
times did he cut off cool intercept? That looks great, but you don't want your center back doing that.
Yeah.
That means something's gone wrong on the
Yeah,
way.
the reason why that's happening isn't good.
No, exactly. So like this game was sort of highlighting that a lot more, where Urania was getting into such open space where Reese couldn't even get to him, and he was getting the shot off early. And luckily for us, he was just not on his game. But either
Mm.
way, good win for Central Coast. They're starting to pick up a bit of steam now, and I kind of reckon we've seen one of the last games for Carl. The pressure's mounting, and I feel like the changes that have to be made are maybe too drastic for a coach to make. I think it's going to be one of those things where we're probably going to see this and maybe a little bit better at best, until he moves on and someone comes in with a bit more of a radical idea.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to show how poor Wanderers have been so far in the fact that they lost 2-1 to Apia, 2-0 to Mariners, but
Yeah.
Mariners beat Apia 6-0 just last night. So it goes
Yep.
to show you how poor we Wanderers are really are. So
Oh yeah. Of
yeah,
course.
let's switch gears into an absolute high octane, thrilling end-to-end match that was decided right at the end. Victory versus City in the Melbourne Derby
Yeah.
in AKA the greatest A-League game we've ever seen.
This was terrific. This
What a
is a
game.
terrific game. This is a terrific game. This is definitely up there for game of the season already. So
No,
early in.
it's far, few and far, like really, like miles ahead of whatever else has
It was
come
terrific
so
because,
far.
like, obviously that it's a lot of goals, the back and forth. You know what I mean? But like,
Mm,
there's a lot of games that go 3-4, and all that sort of stuff. I
mm,
think it's because the whole way through it was such high level. The whole
mm,
way,
mm,
both offensively and defensively, they get that, like, the teams getting really the best out of each other. And I think it's
mm,
just nice to see the Melbourne Derby to get back to that sort of level. Of performance, because juxtapose that to how poor the Sydney Derby was at the start of the year. It's just nice that one of the marquee
it is
fixtures is
true.
living up to the hype. You know what I mean?
That
Like,
is
it's
true. Yeah.
it's good for the league that when people tune in for a big game, it lives up to it, and
Mm,
it really did, man. It was freaking terrific, electric
great.
atmosphere.
Yeah, shout out to the Victory Boys in
They're tremendous.
the away end.
Yeah,
Didn't definitely made it their own home,
for sure.
and definitely were loud. Jason Davidson was in there amongst the boys that were on his suspension. I
Yeah,
mean,
how
they were.
crazy is that?
I don't think it's not as crazy as his hair, but says the guy who dyed his hair pink 3 months ago. But look, I think the crowd really did add to it.
Yeah,
The City, you could hear some fans, but it looked a lot better when Victory scored the winner in the end, and the whole front to back, top of the stand were just going nuts. And the Ben
yeah,
Diaz tifo was pretty cool.
yeah,
And what was the one where they were a plague or something? I can't remember. The tifos were great.
yeah.
Um,
It's great,
the,
great fan turnout,
just
100%.
great fan turnout.
Yeah.
But the game itself, I mean, as soon like Victory started hot, they got their reward with the early goal, and
Mm.
then City. It did take them a little bit to warm up, but when they warmed up, man, it was just an onslaught. And credit to Roderick Miranda, ex Wolves centre back at Victory right now. Mate, what a shift he put in. I think he had 3 or 4 goal saving blocks throughout the
Yeah,
game, putting
yeah,
great
man.
tackle after great tackle. And again, it's not like the Wanderers where he was having to do it because the midfield was porous. It was
No, no, no.
generally
Good
vast
chances being created. Yeah,
good chances. Like he was solely in charge of that. The marking and defending so well and leading the line, which he did well. Shame to see how Glover let that one in right towards the end. It was just a
yeah.
bizarre set of circumstances. How the ball even kind of lobbed everyone on this random clearance out.
Fell
Um,
right to D'Agostino.
yeah, it fell right to him.
Who
And then Glover
he's
gets
D'Agostino has had, like, some. He's not super prolific in front of goal,
mm.
but he did very well to keep his composure and bring that
Oh,
ball
great
down.
super sub, great
It
super sub.
was, it
Wish
was
Jack
great
Harris did.
stuff.
Jack Harrison did more.
That was great. Yeah, you pulled that line out over the weekend, and he does look like a Wish Jack Harrison. Like,
Same type of fade as well, a little bone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Similar sort of player as well, like an outside
Mm,
forward type thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, he did well too.
yeah.
Um,
Nabut, man. For speaking of
mate,
performances,
mate, I've never seen the man play a better game in his life. He was on fire, on
yeah,
fire.
he really was. He really was, man. Like he was everywhere, creating chances, scoring a goal. I mean, nah, he was terrific. He was terrific.
Mm,
He's
mm,
had a couple. He's out of the city victories this year. Um, he's been marquee for a
mm.
few of them, if not
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of them.
100%,
He's
100%.
he really bounced back after that awful experience
Mm.
in the national team.
Yeah, 100%. And not a bad player on the pitch. Amongst all guys, like there really wasn't a bad player on the pitch.
No,
The only
no.
questionable thing I say is probably because Norbert's decision to move or remove the Nabuk from the game. I thought that really removed a threat, and then to bring on a right back and push Atkinson further up. I think if he, took a midfielder off and maybe then put Galloway on, or did something different and find a way to keep Nabuno, because I think Nabut was really giving a handful to
Yeah,
Lee Bloxham on that left hand
I
side.
think what he saw, and I didn't see it, but I
Mm,
think what he saw is Nabuk getting a little heavy on his legs,
mm.
and Atkinson was rather fresh and sprightly. And he
Yeah,
thought maybe in the last couple of minutes, a lagged defense is going to find it tough to deal with a much more pacey Atkinson. I just don't
mm.
think it played out because you would have rather have Nabut's experience toward the end of the game, I
I just
reckon.
think I'd rather his flair because he was
Yeah,
really just being super creative and just tricky to
yeah,
deal with. Yeah, it was looking a little bit laggy, but he was definitely, outside of the foot, crosses, passes. Like he
yeah,
just looked like one of those just guys that full of confidence and willing to do
yeah,
any trick in the book, pull any trick in the book to get a result and a goal. But look, credit to Atkinson as well. I thought he was out of his skin.
yeah. He was terrific.
And he was so good as well. And he's actually, I think I read today, he's actually moving to the Scottish Premier League to Hearts
Wow.
in January, which is a great step up for the young lad from Tasmania. So yeah, no, all round, fantastic game. Really, really, really enjoyed that one.
Great game. Probably game of the round and probably game of the season.
Oh yeah, hundred
See how that
percent.
turns out. Um, Bulls versus the Jets. The
What a
Bulls.
sleepy, sleepy game.
Yeah, yeah. This one was also a bit stop start. The Bulls back in Seatown and on an absolute paddock. There was like this one little
One bit of
section.
yeah, that
Yeah,
little bit of yeah, the
right at the
carpet.
front. Yeah, beautiful there, beautiful there. Everywhere else was abysmal, abysmal. And what's funny is that if you were to pick one area for the field to be good, that would be the last place you'd pick
Oh yeah,
because
where
it's
they
like
walk
just
out on.
yeah, it's like nonchalant, just in the middle. Like it's not near any danger zones. Or you'd much rather have at least one of the goal areas be a little bit more, less suspect. But either way, it was a great win for the Bulls. I reckon it
Mm.
was one of those like
Hard fought.
proving they're a contender sort of victories. They go down a man early. They go down a man early. Yeah, that's right. They go down a
Yeah,
man
you're
early.
right.
What's his name? Kurto, right? I'm
Yeah,
not saying that
Kodo.
wrong. Yeah, Kurto comes out. I wouldn't say he miscalculates. He does what he's supposed to
He
do, I
just got done, bro.
suppose, and he gets done. And
He
that's it.
just gets
Look,
turned.
they didn't concede because of that or what he did. So he did do his due diligence, I suppose. But he gets sent off, and they do well to hold on for a bit. But then from another free kick, a very nice free kick, I might add, a peach. The substitute keeper gets beat on the free kick, and they go down 1-0, and it sort of just hangs there for like what felt like forever.
Mm.
But Bulls just hung in, man. What's his
They
name?
really dug in.
Yeah, Uskok, right? The center back.
Ustok, yeah.
Yeah, terrific. Just absolutely terrific. He was great on the defensive end, obviously. He kept the score to 1-0. He did a lot commanding the line, but then to get the goal for the winner as well. I mean, a great performance from him, really
Mm.
showing leadership qualities. And but like even though he was terrific, he was the anchor for them the whole way through and he won them the game.
Mm.
The silver was ridiculous out there.
Oh,
He was
100%.
ridiculous. He was pulling off roulettes. He was dribbling two or three. The volley to get the equalizer. I mean, he really made up for the man down. Like he was an extra
Mm-hmm.
two or three guys out there. He was terrific.
Yeah, I think easily he's the most talented player in the league. Like when he's on, like
Oh
you can clearly see like him and Davila. I'd probably give him a close run. But I think when
yeah,
they hit full stride, full confidence, and there's a bit of open turf in front of them, and they're
yeah,
confident, man. I think
yeah,
like
yeah,
I think the only downside to De Silva and why I put the Villa up above him, and coincidentally the teammates, which is good to know, is just I think decision making wise, the Villa is a little bit better in terms of passing, but I think I'd still take De Silva only
Yeah.
because he's got that bit of like unknown to him. You
Yeah,
never
he's got
know when
a
that
bit more
left
X
arm,
factor.
a bit
Yeah.
more like a bit of that unknown, like that mystic, a bit of that mystic flair to him, which
Yeah.
is good to see. And that rule, when he pulled off that roulette, that was like holy shit, what the fuck? Like no one expected it really. Even
I,
the
I, I really think that they're the scariest team on a counter attack when you've
oh
got
for sure.
when you've got either De Silva or De Villa or Craig Noon bearing down on you on a counter attack, and one of the other three is making an alternative run, and then you've also got to mark Lockie Rose, who's a
Mm-hmm.
constant runner. It's like a baby Cavani,
Mm.
constant runner, right? So you've got really technical dribblers all making smart, adequate runs. You got to mark the guy with the ball, and then you've also got someone making a big, deep run in behind. I think like on the counter attack, there's such a stress to mark because like, as a centre back, you step out to the guy with the ball. That's risky because he's probably going to be one of three very good dribblers. Probably they've got three of the five best dribblers in the league, probably, right? So do
Mm.
you step out
Mm.
to him? Do you allow that other guy to run in behind you? You've got Lockie Rose, one of the he's coming up, he's very fast, he's prolific. They're a very dangerous team on the counter attack, and
Mm.
they've got a good base as well with Uzcock and who's the young fella, the center
Uh,
mid,
uh,
no,
the friend, yeah, no, he's got a really difficult Mwemba or M1
yeah,
or
something like that. He's terrific.
Baby
Uh,
Kante.
Maybe Kante, but he's terrific as
He's great.
well.
He does exactly what you need him to do. Just interrupt, sweep, make a
So
tackle,
they
keep it
just
moving.
look, they play, sort of Mourinho style counter attack, a bit
Super
trudgy, but
impressive. They're super narrow as well.
narrow, yeah, deep. But like when you've got the personnel to do it, I mean, it just looks great. Like I
Mm,
think it's a bit of a misconception thinking counter-attacking football means that it's boring and defensive and ugly and it's sort of kick and chase sort of thing. But when it's done fluidly and nicely, it looks terrific. And
mm,
these guys can really, really hang with the best of them.
mm.
I reckon this was probably like the game for me that was like, okay, this is a stamp
Oh,
that they're contender.
hmm
If I
hmm
wouldn't be surprised if they're 2, 3, or 1, come the end of the season.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah, definitely. One of the again down a man early, a goalkeeper at that, and really
Yeah,
dug deep. And to look at it on the flip side as well for Newcastle, look, they were down on personnel. They weren't, they're not the most talented team. They did what they did. Tino Yule had some flashes, but they just wore down and ran out of ideas. And I quite
I don't.
like
I
it.
also don't. I also don't think there's many teams out there that can throw two very skilled fullbacks at Tino Yule. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like normally
mm,
he'll eventually break the guy down, wear him down. But
mm.
once the guy got tired in this one, they just swapped him out for someone fresh.
Yeah,
And like
100%.
you said, he had his flashes, but he wasn't able to get like sustained big
Mm, mm.
moments
Yeah,
of outcome.
nothing in the second half, pretty much. And for Newcastle overall, I just think they just ran out of gas. And I think,
Mm,
throwing everything forward and having to chase back and protect the counter, even though they are a man down, when you're not as talented as the other team, there's such a gap in quality. In personnel, I think
mm.
it does weigh down on it, which is a shame because I think they did deserve a point, at least
I do too.
Newcastle,
I do too. Yeah.
away from home. But
Mm.
look, that's football for you.
Yeah, hey, the best teams find the way to get it done, and that's why I was
Hmm
so impressed by this one because they pulled it out of their ass, and yeah, it's very hard to do, especially a
hmm
man down. Um,
hmm
let's wrap it up for the A League on these guys. Sydney FC versus the Knicks. The Sky Blues getting their first dub of the season, huh? How about
What a
that?
weird sentence.
Yep, yep,
What a weird sentence. Cam Sober again.
yeah.
Probably best signing for them in a long time, and in the league, probably one of the more successful ones, I'd say. Again, just out there being a nuisance. Really scored it's a good poacher's goal. Got on the end of it, and the little front flip as well was a great celebration to see as well. But yeah, look, Wellington, they tried as hard as they did and as hard as they could, but it just they're not the talent isn't there to keep up with the likes of Sydney and the top 4 or 5 teams. Eventually, you can't you can be as disciplined and tactically astute as you can, but sometimes it just takes individual brilliance, to take you down. And again, they did score a consolation goal right at the end, but yeah, nothing much to show for Wellington. Which is a shame because I quite like them as the underdog. And being from the only team from NZ with some bright, gawky colours, kind of endearing, if anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Coach's
yeah,
name is Ufuk.
yeah.
That's good shit there. And like they play, a very nice brand of football as well,
Mm,
and they have kind of as like a general rule, even before Ufuk Talay, it's not like he's the first guy that's kind of made the Knicks a hipster favorite. They're always sort
yeah.
of that plucky team, cool colors. They play some attractive football. Their fans
Fans
are
take
actually
the
very
shirt off.
committed, to be honest.
Yeah, they take the
Um,
shirt off.
yeah,
Go nuts.
yeah, that's true. So yeah, no, look, a bit sad for him, but look, I was kind of waiting for when the Sydney FC would make the little turn, when the new leaf would flip. Not sure if this is definitely it, but a sign. You know
We've doggy the next page, mate. We'll see what
exactly,
happens this
exactly,
weekend.
exactly. They're definitely doing a little better than the West of Sydney. That's for sure.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
All right.
Speaking of chaos and
Yes.
disorder, the
Mm.
EPL and
Yeah.
what was played of it after 5 games, I believe, 4 or 5 games postponed due to the Omicron and COVID crisis that's gripped the nation. And yeah, no, there's so many cancellations. It's done a number on my fantasy team, but also helped me out because
Same.
everyone else is fucked, just as much as I am. So I pulled through and had a few Liverpool and Spurs players in there to cover my and City players to cover my ass. But speaking of Spurs, I guess the EPL. Let's look at Arsenal. Our
Yeah.
favorite manager of the month 2 months ago. Big win, 4-1. Doesn't look any better for Leeds. The season just gets slower and slowly but surely more depressing. Christ. But yeah, 4-1, great performance from a lot of the youngsters from Arsenal.
Yeah, man.
Odegaard, Martinelli continuing to
Great
make
stuff.
Aubameyang an obsolete object.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. He's
Arsenal.
gonna he's gonna he's gonna cop redundancy.
Oh, for sure,
Aubameyang.
for sure. Pay the man out and let the man
Pay him
free.
out.
No, you know what
Right.
they're gonna do? He's gonna cancel his passport when he comes back from that freaking operation. It's like, bro, why does my passport work?
About that. Sorry,
uh,
Obama who? Poor guy. I feel
oh,
poor bloke. No, it's nice to see for Arsenal because they're getting it done with the youngsters. That's always good
mhm.
to see. It's
Finally.
Martin, yeah, finally, but it's Martinelli, it's Saka, it's Emil Smith Rowe, it's
Hmm.
Odegaard. I mean, the list goes on and on. They've got so much young talent they've pulled there. It was a sort of trust the process. Two
Very
two
much so.
years, 2 years
Lots
for
of trust.
Arteta.
To
Is
be
it
fair, yeah,
his?
this is Arteta's second season, but to trust the youth and turn a new leaf, almost,
Hmm,
it was 3 to 4 years, but yeah, no,
yeah,
100%. It's finally coming to fruition.
yeah. They're playing some good football. Yes, it's Leeds. Leeds are playing bad. They're not in good form at the moment. But Arsenal last season would have let them make a game of this because they
Hmm.
weren't in
Hmm.
this nick. They weren't as well oiled,
No confidence.
where they could put a team to the sword. Like they just didn't have that. No matter how bad the opposition was, it was much more toil just to get people to go down for them.
Hmm.
And they're able to put away a team that's plucky in Leeds. Who are well set up, aggressive, and they were able to kind of take hold of the game and really stick it to them, which was
Mm.
not something they were able to do for the last 2-3 seasons.
Yeah, 100%. You'd always have a seed of doubt last season
Yeah,
with Arsenal
yeah,
against smaller teams. Would they
against
be a
anyone,
banana skin?
you were just like you couldn't see them really putting a team to the sword and beating them 4-1. Like you could, and yeah, they beat them 4-1, but they also dominated the game. Like you know what I mean? Like you couldn't really see them doing that last season. It
Mm.
was good for them. Orba's done. You reckon? That's it.
I don't know. I mean, Arteta mentioned that there is people do change, and there is redemption in people. So, I mean, if you take those words as they are, potentially not done. But I mean, depends on who they.
See, take it the other way, right? Because if he's saying that, then that tells me that it's something beyond performance. You know what I mean?
100%. It's always been every time he's been reprimanded. It's not because of performance. It's something off
Which
the
is
field.
more worrying to me because I feel like if it was correcting performance, you can kind of like, well, if the outcome's good, you can kind of look past everything. But if the guy is a twat to deal with, and you've got a youngster who's hungry and scoring goals, like, why do you even give him a second thought? Like, it's just not
Mm.
even worth the time.
Cash in
Goodbye.
on him. Get what you can, and move on.
Yeah, exactly. Cash out and move on. So, yeah, I reckon at least the meaningful Aubameyang influence is done for. Like, it's
Uh-huh.
maybe he'll come back for some cameos. Maybe he'll sneak back into a few starting lineups here and there. But I just think, long term, I don't see Arteta having him in the plan.
For sure. I agree. I think it's time. Just get cash in before his value plummets to the floor.
Yeah, yeah. And because there's a lot of teams desperado for a bit of goals,
I
off
mean,
the bench.
if you can
Yeah,
muster them up.
yeah, but like I think you can still sell. You can still sell
Yeah, you
to
can
another
con
league
someone
that he
into
can.
it.
Yeah, he can con someone into him still being a goal scorer.
Yeah.
All right, Spurs versus Liver.
What a controversial contest, huh?
Mm, mm, mm. Um, there was first of all, it was a great game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very back and forth. Also, we saw sort of the worst and the best of football, I think, in it,
Yes.
right? Like the bad
Definitely.
challenges, bad refing, um, uh,
Negative tactics, maybe.
negative tactics, sort of ugly goals as
Mm-hmm.
well. Not the best. Scuffed chances of what could have been more uh, visually pleasing goals, like that Harry Kane scuffed chance where Dele Alli just like rolls it into him, and I don't know, he tries to chip Lloris, where Lloris is practically already on top of the ball. Like he would have had to have chipped it vertically and then hope that the ball would have cannoned in on a right angle for some reason.
Yeah.
So a bit strange, but either way, uh, Spurs get a point out of him.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean,
It's pretty good.
If it was still Nuno, you wouldn't get a point out of this game. So I
Nah.
guess this is why you pay the big bucks for turgid football and a point. But look, you could say both teams are maybe suffering from a COVID hangover. They have had their cases. Spurs had their game postponed last week, or midweek as well. So you could say that they're maybe just a little bit fatigued from all the chaos and commotion.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's hard to say if this is a just result for either team, just because of the pure conjecture around some of the decisions that was made. Again, Robbo's red card, Kane studs up challenge as well, which is kind of interesting that he was still on the field after that. I mean, a lot of if, ands, or buts, but at the end of the day, the result will still stand. That's a point for each team. Um, you
I
know,
think personally, I also think this is sort of proving the blueprint for what like Conte has to do with this team for them
mm,
to be able to scrap with the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, City. Like I think this has proven that maybe they're not good enough to beat these teams, but at least they're good enough to make a game out of it and make it hard for them. And I think that's better than what Nuno was able to really scramble
100%.
together. And then when he's able to start betting in his own players into the system, I can start to see now where there's a possible upward trending trajectory for Spurs. Where when I first saw what's his name, Conte arrive, and he was playing, he started coaching a few games. His language kind of made me feel like he's already setting up so many excuses that he really doesn't
Mm.
see a way out. Like he has no way of making this team into a competitive outfit. But it seems like he's been able to scramble it together a little bit.
Maybe he was just trying to weasel out anyone that didn't want to buy in, or anyone that agreed with him in the team, and then kick him out accordingly. But no, look, we all knew it was going to take time, and now we're seeing some potential adoption to Conte's madness and method. So hopefully we can see Spurs, because I think it's more entertaining when you have more teams fighting for those positions near the top, or at least near the top five or
Look,
six.
Kane and Son are two of the 5 or 6 best players in the league on their day. So it's sad when their team isn't performing because then they don't get to shine that much, and we're essentially missing two of the better parts of the league.
For sure, for sure. Now let's go to some of the better parts around the continent. We had Sevilla snatch an absolute, really jammy goal in the end, thanks to Campos, but really Atleti did it to themselves. They had a few chances to really win it late there towards the end, but they just let the jammy goal get them and not convert on their chances there. So the points dropped away from home there. We had Napoli against AC and another near the top of the table clash in Italy. Napoli took a lead through Elmas in the 5th minute. Really never looked to lose it. Really defended stoutly, and AC kind of, I guess, maybe running a bit out of steam at this stage. Remember that
I think so. Hey, I think so.
Out a little bit.
Yeah. I also think that the bigger pieces, like the X Factor type players, your Theo Hernandez, your Kessier, all these guys, I think they're being courted elsewhere. So I don't know if they're as, not I'm not to say they're not committed, but I just don't know if they're as zero in and focused on Milan's success as they were 6 to 8 months ago when they weren't in so many people's dealings. But I don't see. I think a lot of this AC Milan team seems to be about to be picked off over the next 12 to 18 months.
For sure. For sure. And speaking of another team that'll be picked apart or have the crown jewel actually really stolen from Dortmund. They go down 3-2 against Hertha. Again, Dortmund kind of have this up and down result. Like, they're still second in the Bundesliga, which is good. But, I mean, they didn't qualify for the round of 16 in the Champions League. Haaland seems to be slipping further and further away. It's just a matter of which club he decides to go to.
Yeah.
Question is, have they really done anything since Marcos Rose had joined the club as a coach? Has anything really improved, or has it pretty much just stayed the same and everyone around them has faltered, with the likes of Leipzig, not where they were last year and fighting for that title or top 3 position? So, or even Wolfsburg with their slow start under Van Bommel before he could do it. So,
I agree.
Is it really improvement, or is it just the circumstances have been more favorable in the league for them? We don't know, and we'll find out. I think Rose won't make the season personally because, with the up and down results, the way they're playing, and the fact that they're not in the Champions League, I think is a really big setback for them.
Yeah, it really is, man. It really is. That it's one of the bigger bargaining chips because people wanted to come to Germany normally want to go to Bayern Munich. And now you've got a big player in Leipzig as well, negotiating and vying for position there. So when you lose that sort of that jewel where you're a Champions League team, it does hurt. Their performances in the league, I personally think, are a bit more worrying than you'd think because they're starting to slip now, and I don't think they haven't had Haaland because of injury. And now I think that you're probably going to start to lose him now because his mind's going to start to wander elsewhere. That's just how I think. He hasn't really shown that he's that sort of guy, but it's just the logical sort of pathway these players go down when their time at a club is done and they're about to go somewhere else, and they don't want to really get injured or risk fucking up that next step. I feel like, if they're not really going to get the 100 out of 100 Haaland they were getting before, Rosa doesn't have the locker room, and X, Y, and Z keep happening. I think it's very easy for them to slip to 3rd, 4th, and possibly end up out of a Champions League spot. It'd have to be a big skid, but they haven't really shown me enough to say that they're incapable of having that skid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I think I think it's coming sooner or later. There's a lot of pieces, sort of like the Jenga tower is getting higher and higher, and I feel like there's a collapse somewhere. Because when I look at the performances and the games I've watched for them, and how I've seen their results, and they've lost a few games and drawn a few games that the ones that got away from them, it doesn't feel like they should be second. It feels like they should be lower. So to your point, I feel like other teams have underperformed. Can they rely on that for the second half of the season? I'm not so sure.
I have my concerns as well. And usually in the Bundesliga, you do get your upstarts in the first half or the second half as well. So it tends to, that winter break really kind of can be catalyst for changes in and amongst some of those other teams. Like if
Yeah.
you think of Wolfsburg, a team that finished in Champions League places last year, brought in a new coach after 6 to 9 games. They got rid of him, instilled a new one. That takes more time. So
Yeah.
once they bed in, have a bit of a small training camp, and figure out how they're going to play, and bet in a bit more on that system. Maybe we can see them bounce back and take some of those points away and move ever closer to second position. Leipzig with the firing of Jesse Marsch, and I'm just trying. I think Tedesco is in there now.
Yep.
If he can find something there, why not? Who's to say that Dortmund will still be second? So interesting to see how Dortmund finish. I'm reiterating it, so all the eyes on the internet can highlight it, that I don't think Rose will make it till the end of the season. I think the fact that if you look at him when he left Mönchengladbach, the fact that the results completely skid off the table, and everything was lost, goes to show that he kind of can lose the team when he's maybe under pressure, not focused, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, the results will speak for themselves. And so far, they're okay. Maybe, I don't know, but they're not in it. I think the biggest thing is surprisingly is that they're not in the Champions League. And when you look at their group, Besiktas, Sporting Lisbon, and I'm forgetting the fourth one, but it should be someone. It should have been a cakewalk. I want to say not Copenhagen, but it was a cakewalk team. It should be.
I'll let you know.
Should have been easy, and they still finished third, which is disappointing. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, time will tell. The winter break has kicked off now for most leagues, so they'll be nice and cozy at home, or maybe in doing a summer camp in Dubai, like some of the other clubs do. So we'll keep an eye on that.
It was Ajax, the other team.
Ajax, not a cakewalk team.
No, not a cakewalk. But when you think Borussia Dortmund in that group, it should be a stroll for them to get through.
Well, yeah, exactly. Ajax and Dortmund on top.
This
cleaned the group. Ajax won all their games, which is the first for a Dutch club, and only the 10th team to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you would have thought that Borussia Dortmund had more of a likelihood of having that dominance in the group than Ajax. Look, I just think they've got the coaching issue. What happens when the rumors become a bit more tangible with where Haaland's going? How's all that going to sort of play out? I feel like if the team's performing really well and a team signs him, it's very unlikely his form would drop because everything's chugging along, everyone's doing really well. He doesn't want to be the bad cog. But if the team's performing already sort of subpar and the wheels are sort of falling off, then what's really dragging him to keep going? If he's already solidified his spot in the next club and he's not playing to make that a reality, then what's the motivation? So I feel like there's a couple more twists in the tail for Borussia Dortmund through the rest of the season.
Never forget, Raiola is always a call away to take some heat and make a move happen.
That's true. That's very true. Alrighty. Follow us on the socials at Last Goal Wins Pod on Twitter, at Last Goal Wins Pod _ on Instagram, at Last Goal Wins Podcast on Facebook. You can catch the replay on Spotify, on YouTube. Don't forget, all glory be to Bozza, and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler.
Wow.